My hair okay? Right, we started? Right, perfect. Okay, start again. Good evening all, to the distant viewers, hello to you. Right, let me just position what's going on here. I've come in this evening just to go over some bits of the course. Now you'll find when I go through the slides, some of the slides are identical to Ken's, because Ken and I developed the course together. The luxury I've got is I'm just hand-picking some bits which were based on questions you sent into Fiona. So I've got a bit more time. So the bits that you might be a bit worried about, I can probably expand a bit more than Ken had time for. I used to do the PhD, I did that in PhD 1 to 38 continuously, and it's a lot to get in 2 days. So I've seen the exam and seen the answers. I knew them, but I had to check. So I know what's in the exam and what's not, but I can't tell you. So the stuff I'm going through tonight, I'll go through it all with equal importance. What I want from you is stop me at any point and ask a question. I don't know what you don't know. For some of you, if you don't know what you don't know, it's also going to be a problem. But the session, it's meant to be a friendly session. I'm just revising. It's not a reflection on Ken or me or anything. It's just sometimes when you rehear something, because I know what the problem, part of the problem about when you're sitting here for 2 days, at some point you turn off. I've done it many a time. And that's why I'm lecturing, it's a real problem. You can laugh in places. Calm down. But if you've got questions, ask. If not, I've paced this to last about 2.5 to 3 hours, as we've got. But the important thing is we cover what you want me to cover. Fiona sent me an email which had a summary of some of the areas that people had sent specific requests about. So it's things about capacity, design, effective, demonstrated, lead and light capacity, some stuff on supply chain management. I think there's a bit, some stuff on continuous improvement. So I've put it all together and I'll go through it, but please, it belongs to you. If you leave here tonight and you think, oh, Joe didn't cover what I needed, then that's a real disaster. So stick with me. And it's scheduled for 9:30. If I need to stay longer to help people, that's fine. Okay. So rather not, and maybe you'd rather not. But the important thing is to get you through the end of the evening that you feel happy that you've covered. Right, so I'm going to start. The slides are on the Aspire. I think some of you have seen them. There was some concern today that it's amazing how fast you guys respond. It's a bit like Facebook. I've travelled the world looking, and I've put Facebook posts out in the middle of what should be the night here. And somebody likes it or responds. It's like that with Aspire. Almost before she says go, somebody responds. So some people panicked a bit today, saying the slides are different to Ken's. Yes, because I'm not Ken. You'll probably notice a few differences. So some of them are exactly the same. So we developed the course together, and then some of the bits I've added in because it's from other lectures I do when I've got more time. So I can expand it a little bit. So bear with me. I've got to try and stay in front of the camera, so I'll be playing up to the audience. And what's the script my boss watches it. Yeah.
So just for the benefit of everyone, we obviously don't have enough time to get into discussions and that sort of thing. Will you obviously monitor that and throttle us on the discussions to keep us to pace?
Yeah, I'll do that, so I'm very aware of the time.
Okay.
I don't know whether discussions will come up. It might be that I do a good enough job. We'll see. I don't want you and I to start a discussion about whether the class will have a discussion. That is not a good way to start.
That was my point.
Okay. That was Eric flicking up. Okay, that's who I am. You haven't got much time to get hold of me between now and Saturday, but I'm lecturing all day tomorrow and all day Friday, so I'm not very available, but I am in the evening if you need me. Okay, starting off at the very beginning. This is a very important section for me, and it's in the textbook, it's from the textbook, but the competitive advantage from operations. So you've got the competitive factors. And I always like to use this slide because it shows operations' role. Operations' role is to deliver marketing's promises. It's as simple as that. I've got a slide on that later on. But operations does not live on its own in isolation. In some companies it does, and that's part of the company's problems. But in the ideal company, operations delivers the promises made by marketing. There's a counter obligation for that, that marketing shouldn't make promises that operations can't deliver. That's not always quite so clear. But just to talk you through this slide, there's a concept. What's the business we're in? And I remember working with MTN and Vodacom when they first started, and they were talking about what do they sell. And the only thing they could sell was airtime. Everything else was a distraction. But to sell airtime, they have to deliver other stuff. Then, how do you compete? Now, in your textbook, it talks about perceived user value. Because if you haven't got a perceived user value, you're probably a commodity. And this lecture becomes very short because if you're in commodities, the main thing you've got to do is be cheap. And the second sentence is get cheaper, and the third sentence is keep getting cheaper. And that's the commodity world. A lot of what Ken and I are covering with you is about how a company is competitive through their operations. So think about that. They say if you're unlucky enough to be in the commodity world, and some of you are currently not commodities, but becoming so. I see there's people here from the banks. You already have experienced that some part of the banks, which were huge value adds in the past, have become commoditized. So you've automated those, let those happen, and you'd rather give the personal service where you can make money and the customers you want to retain. Because it's not a case of keeping every customer, it's keeping profitable customers. Okay. The problem with the banks is you get an 18-year-old snot-nose in, you don't know that he's going to be the next Steve Jobs or somebody. So it's a huge challenge, I understand that. So it's about how do you compete. If your price is just a commodity, if it's some sort of value add, then it's about what value. Now there's no way on their own that operations know what the market wants. They can easily make a mistake. And some companies, and I'll just give you a very quick example of SA Breweries, rest in peace. They did the signature on my figure. SA Breweries, for years, operations had too much say. They killed off brands. They spent 100 years killing brands. And some of you know as old as me, probably not any two of you know as old as me. But you've seen brands disappear in the past because they were trying to optimize the breweries. So they had 4 or 5 brands, they had dedicated lines, they ran 24/7. I mean, and the volumes were huge. You know, I mean, it's about the quart line was something like 50,000 quarts an hour, just one line. And the can lines run about twice that speed. It's so huge. But then the marketing people, who can be a bit evil, they went and spoke to the customer. Old-fashioned idea, you know, speak to the customer. And the customer says, that's nonsense, we're not going to sit around with beans anymore or whatever, drink quarts and that. We want different brands, we want image and all sorts. So marketing came back and said to operations, you need to change. Operations said, no, because you will affect our efficiencies and throughputs, and machine utilization and capacity, and all of those things we hold dear in operations. And marketing said, as they tend to, suck it up and get over it. So they did. So they launched brands, and you can name the brands now. You know, you've got the Pilsner Qual and the Miller's Draft and the Peroni, and some have come and gone. But they've launched lots of brands. They're not the volumes of the Castles and Lions and the Black Labels. They make more profit on those than they ever make on Castle, Black Label, etc. So SA Breweries were forced to change their focus from avoiding changeovers. Because when you're making 55,000 bottles an hour, if you stop the plant, you're not making 55,000 bottles an hour. And it affects all those wonderful measures I mentioned. So what happened was now they've had to get better at changeovers. And they've changed the focus. Now they're not stupid. What they've done is they have certain lines for the big sellers, the Castles and the Lions and that. And they still run 24/7 when necessary. But they have other lines which they're especially designed to be more agile, flexible, so they can change over. And in fact, when they're trying new brands, they've got a brewery called Shandor near Krugersdorp. They have the pilot plants there. They make small volumes, and that's where they're making the craft beers. What's it, Fersen Street, or what's called now. So I want to show you that's what's driving this. So these ones here, and you'll probably remember, it's in the book anyway, but you've got speed, quality, reliability, flexibility, dependability, and cost to customer. They're what we're having to balance. And it all depends on what the demand is outside that circle. And they say it's straight from the textbook. I've lifted it straight from the textbook. But important thing for you to understand. Because, you know, I'm trying to explain. The key thing about operations is, if you don't know what you've got to be good at, you'll be good at anything. And often operations people specialize in things that make them look good. But it may not be the things which are required by customers. Another example is Woolworths. Woolworths started off, when they brought the food out, they were only in the superstores. So you were crazy enough, and I was there, man. Saturday morning, you know, you have your two kids all covered in snot and sugar, you know, going around Pick and Pay and buying the cheapest and no-name brand and the milk with the longest shelf life. But cruel to Pick and Pay. Then we went to Woolworths and we bought lettuce around the leaf and all those sort of wonderful things because we felt it was better value. But we did. And then what happened then? Pick and Pay looked at this and they realised we're getting nailed on quality. So Pick and Pay and Superspar and that, they've raised their quality. Now you might say their quality is not quite Woolworths, but at 11:30 on a Saturday morning with two kids that looked like glazed donuts and a trolley full of crap, it wasn't worth driving to a Woolworths or going to the world. So people stopped. And I can do a long talk on this, but I haven't got time. So what happened is they raised their quality and Woolworths started losing sales. So what Woolworths realised, they had to be where you are. And that's where the Woolworths food stores came from. So their whole strategy changed from you went to where Woolworths food was, to Woolworths food now has to be where you are. Massive. It didn't change the fundamentals of the business because they buy in from people and distribute and make oodles of money. But the way they served you has changed dramatically. And that's all I'm trying to say from this slide, that if you don't know what you've got to be good at, just be very careful with that video, please. If you don't know what you've got to be good at, then you could easily choose the wrong thing, and many companies have done that. Because operations people, traditionally, and I'm from operations, I am that man, we didn't really care about customers. Customers that inconvenience, you know, they ordered the wrong quantities at the wrong time. They gave me a warehouse full of slow-moving stock, and they left me out of stock with all the popular stuff, which was also partly marketing, because those stupid buggers can't do forecasting, you know. Oh, here we go. First hour, you know. One company I worked in, I offered to enter the marketing forecast in the Fiction Writer of the Year award. Okay. So you've got to feel for this. How important, look at these slides in the book. And I'm not allowed to give you any more hints than that, but I would make sure you understand competitive factors. That's the last thing. Yeah. I mean the last one, because this is going on record. I've got a career to protect. Don't forget, I'm an old white man, I'm an endangered species. Me and the rhino. The rhino's got more chance. Okay, let me talk for a second. Are you coping with my accent and the speed? Yeah. I deliberately took a soft topic initially just so you can listen. I'm going to go through now, and it's entirely up to you to stop or start me on something. If you don't understand something, ask. You won't get another chance. So it belongs to you. So that's the important bit. And I'll come back to bits of this as we go through. There's some other slides which my own, which don't look like this, but they say the same thing. If I was lecturing this, I make this point, this is the thing I'm banging all the time. Operations has to deliver the promise. If you're not delivering the company's promise, your operation's no good. You might be the most efficient and the best capacity utilization. If you don't make customers happy, you'll be the most efficient bankrupts. And it's taken a long time for operations people to start to realize that. You know, we have a very important role. It's not admiring ourselves and judging our own beauty contest. It's delivering to customers. But we need marketing's help for that. So if operations and marketing are on two sides of one coin, you are deep in the pit. And in many companies, it's the biggest battleground. I deliberately threw a hand grenade in to upset you, know. But that's the way it is. And yet, if we don't work together, it's hard to have a sustainable future. So you saw these results in the textbook. And then what we did, we picked up, we can't cover everything in the book. I mean, it's just pretty impossible in 2 days. You know. Give me another half hour, I'll do the Bible. You know. So we've picked out bits which we think people need help with interpretation, or we can add some value to. So the ones we normally look at are some sort of our process design, capacity strategy, because you've got to make very distinct decisions about capacity. Capacity can make or break you. So that's hard to manage. And then we use quality, and then some planning and control for supply chain. So they're the things, if you get those right, you can deliver to the customer. But if we don't know, that link, then, and where the balance is, we can't set the other things up, because they drive all of this. So for example, very briefly, if you've got a product where the customer wants fast delivery, then speed's got to be your issue. So the big one will be speed, and you've got to handle that to give speed. And that can even decide where your facilities are or where your warehouse. If you need speed to market, then you may have to have a warehouse where the market is. Because even in the e-commerce age, we had the bricks and mortar. The reason Amazon is in Seattle, 2 reasons. The guy who started it, is it Jeff Bezos, or his name is, he forgets my name. He lived in Seattle, but more importantly, when he started Amazon, the world's biggest book warehouse was in Seattle. So although Amazon's virtual, the deliveries aren't. So let me start working through these now. And I always spend a bit of time, because you need to get used to my accent. It won't get any slower as I go forward. It's like all lecturers, you know. And this is where I'll get in trouble, because this is on record, you know, but all lecturers run out of time. You've experienced it, you're experts now. I'm going to try not to. Okay, so you've got the supply pipeline, otherwise known as the supply chain. There's a pipeline of stuff that has to come into a company, and whether in goods or service, we've all got inputs. You do something with it, there's a transformation, and then there's an output for a customer. And that's the essence of what supply chain is about, is managing all of that. In the past, for different companies, that history is different timescales. We used to just worry about what happened in the business. We get stuff in and we get it out, you know. But in fact, we're often delivering to a promise over here. It could be a time, a quality, a quantity. So if we don't manage the whole part of that, we will not necessarily be able to deliver the promise to the client. And that's basically what the whole of supply chain is about. So there's you in operations. You've got suppliers, but your suppliers have got suppliers. So if you're looking at a bread company, something like Albany, they've got people who supply packaging. But those packaging people get plastic film, or whatever you call it, bags or whatever, from a polyethylene manufacturer. They get flour, and that comes from a mill, flour mill, and prior to that, farmers grow wheat. So there's different layers of people supplying, and if they don't all know what's going on, you won't necessarily get things right. There's one of my favorite quotes, and I've only got about 2 or 3, but one of my favorite quotes is, you will never, ever, 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 ever be better than your suppliers let you be. You have the greatest systems in the world. If you don't come in, I bloody promise you it's not going out. So that's why that's important. But once you've made it, and I'm from production background, pharmaceuticals mainly, we also then realize we've got to get them to patients. You know, there's about 2,500 pharmacies around South Africa, and every one of them, every day, is ordering tablets. And you can't say who's going to be sick when. Now, some of them you can keep in stock. Aspirin's cheap, you know. There are anti-cancer drugs that cost 10,000 rand a vial. You know, so you're not going to have those all over the country. And of course, one of the big things is, where do you keep the bloody stock? and from my experience, is the wrong place. Whatever you put it is not where you get the bloody order. You know, you try and do this predictive. I see you're in logistics. It's a nightmare because you have all these models and you have supercomputers and you put it in Braakfontein or somewhere, and then somebody bloody orders it in Olifantsfontein. And that's a small example. When it's Namibia and Cape Town, it becomes more difficult. So that's what supply chain management's about. It's about having the right stuff in the right place. But what you've got to be aware of is strategic, because that's what we did in the past. We managed the supply chain largely about minimizing inventory, because inventory is money tied up. You've done the financial course, I can't recap that. I don't think I'm capable. So you don't want to tie up working capital, but you've got to have just enough inventory to do the job. So for years, we've tried to get the cheapest and minimize it and get it just to arrive as we need it, you know, continuous flow. What's moved on is people think more now of strategic supply chain management. It's using supply chain to achieve some of these chaps here. Because you know, where stuff comes from, how much you hold where, very much affects the speed of delivery, it affects dependability. So again, strategically, your supply chain is looking at what you hold and where, but also it's your shareholders' expectations. I mean, shareholders are little rascals, they want profit. So it's trying to manage the whole company to deliver to customers, deliver profits for shareholders, and get it right. So it's not just about optimizing the supply of inventory, it's about achieving the strategic plan. So it's important you understand strategic supply chain is the level above just supply chain management. And it is mentioned in the textbook. I've checked all this. So there is something on, I can't deny it, there is something on supply chain in the exam, but make sure you understand strategic supply chain. I can't say much more than that, I probably said too much already, and there's evidence. Oh my God. The rhino's got more chance than me. So, are you comfortable so far? Okay, so that's a classic process: input, transformation, output. I'm sure Ken told you. If you manage a transformation, you're an operations manager. We tend to think about production or the front end in a bank. Every one of you here manages processes. Processes transform things. You are all operations managers. It's just in some companies it's called separate department. So what makes this job bloody difficult is no company stands alone. And because of that input, transformation, output, you as a company have both roles. Because you're a customer for your suppliers, but you're a supplier for your customers. So what happens here is that you're doing stuff, it goes on to another organization and they're doing stuff. So in terms of the end user, the customer, it's coordinating those companies, coordinating they all have the same focus. And again, if speed's the focus, they must all have a speed focus. If the focus is quality or flexibility, can you deliver different amounts at different times, different batch sizes? That's what your supply chain's got to look at. But if you don't get alignment, you're not going to get it delivered to the customers. Are you with me so far?
Yep.
Is it clear enough? Yep. Sure, don't be shy to ask questions. Right. Now, that's great, but the next slide is, I feel a bit like Dynamo now. See if you see the change. It's changed to department, see there? It's exactly the same internally. So you have internal supply chains, and you have external supply chains. Most external supply chains, in my opinion, fail at the internal level. We don't get it right internally, so it doesn't happen externally. It can be waiting for authorizations, a whole range of things. Sorry, just welcome, sorry, madam? Madam, it's told you, sorry. I'm just saying, we have recorded, so anything you've missed, you haven't, it will be on the spire, okay? Let's try and help people. Okay, so All I'm trying to show you there is the essence of supply chain. It's not just about getting your own supply chain lined up, it's getting everybody's supply chain lined up. And sometimes you use people in a different way. What some of you will have seen is some companies now, they can't afford to have tons of stock, or they don't want to be a warehouse. So they ask the suppliers to reserve stock for them, not sell it to anybody else. So that the supplier keeps it where it belongs to, say, city property. So as they call it off, it's consumed. They get charged the fee for reserving the stock. They're quite happy because they don't have to have an extra warehouse, and it's available when they want it. And they're the sort of partnerships we get along supply chains. We need partnerships in supply chain. We don't just need suppliers. If it's a commodity, let me be crude, I don't work for Sappi on Monday, but paper's paper. If I'm buying photocopy paper, I'm not going to create a strategic alliance with somebody. I'm going to buy the cheapest bloody paper, you know. Because in my life at home, I print out ALPs and things, read them, shred them. So I do it in draft and I do it in black and white. And me, yes, I say it's in 2 official languages. But if you speak to our printing department here at GIBS, which is an independent company outsourced, they get through tons of paper. The quality of paper is crucial. Now, I've taught Sappi and Monday, and they say, oh, Joe, you buy this cheap paper, it jams and you won't get the throughput. I've got a 4-page a minute printer. If it jams, it's not the end of my world. If you've got a 500-page printer, a minute printer, you don't want bloody jams. And that's where people buy appropriate quality. So it's all part of this supply chain, is what's appropriate. Do you want flexibility? Do you want quality? Do you want speed? So that's what we're managing at a strategic level in the supply chain. Because you can buy stuff cheap, say, from India or China, and not knocking out of the country, but because of the long lead times in some cases, it doesn't give you the flexibility to respond to a market. So you may have to buy a more expensive input, and your customer might be willing to pay more because they want speed more than they want cheap. So that's the play-off all the time. So I know you've done a lot of this, but I just want to remind you, what I'm trying to do, hopefully my marketing friend there understands it, I'm trying to bring in this link between marketing and operations. Because all this value stuff I'm talking about, that's marketing speak, but it can only be delivered by operations. Marketing have no infrastructure to deliver anything. That's not their job. They make appropriate promises based on fact and data, and then operations has to deliver. Okay, now what happens is each step in the supply chain adds cost. So ever since we've been looking at the supply chain, we've focused on cost. But one of the things that's changed quite a lot is, for the reasons I mentioned, sometimes we pay extra, and you do it at home as well, you pay extra for speed or quality. And you make those choices. Because there's always this thing like everybody's looking for the cheapest price. That's not true. If you're getting the appropriate price. Even the commodity market is just price. But for most of us, we'll pay a bit extra to get certain things. If you see me a lot, I wear a lot of Pringles shirts. Now, I'm not advertising Pringles, but they come in generous sizes. And the other thing is, I travel a lot, I used to. They don't crease easily. So the reason I buy Pringle is for non-creasability, not for particular styles, and certainly not for the name on here. Although some people walk around like that. Now, I've got some shirts with Pringle on the sleeve. Now, that's a challenge, because then you've got to do that. That's where the dabbing came from. I'm glad you're laughing at me, because I feel like I'm in an exam room. So I'm just trying to give the information I think you need. Is it a bit clearer? Am I adding anything to it? Yeah. Okay. Just keep me honest. So what we've got to try and do is minimise that cost, but it's not just about cost. That was the early days of supply chain management. Nowadays, it's about achieving strategic targets. Right. Now, this definition, this is not your textbook, I apologise. If I was you, I'd use any definitions that you need to use, take it from your textbook. And this is very similar to yours because supply chain. And the main thing about it is it's a sequence of organisations, which I've shown you. And it's their facilities, functions, activities. They're all involved in producing a product or a service. These days it's so much about service. And getting that to the customer. So that's what supply chain management's about. So I think I've covered that reasonably well. Now this slide's important. And Ken and I both use this. I don't stand up there, I like to keep people awake. But Ken and I both use this slide, and it's from a book we haven't prescribed to, but it's a book I think handles this quite well, and it has pretty pictures in it. But these are different options of how you can have a supply chain. The top one, and I apologise for the lighting here, I'm not quite sure how to change it. But you've got supplier 2 goes to supplier 1, you've got the service provider, and then you've got a customer. Very simple. And you can imagine somebody who makes who bottles honey, gets honey in bottles and things, they supply here and they sell to a customer. And there can be distributors in the middle, let's not get lost, we know, but it's quite simple. But what also happens is that you can have the service provider, you can have a customer, and some bugger in the middle, an intermediary. Now let me tell you about Joe Aspinall. I own a company called Farmer Books. We supply all these books to you. I've got 2 fingers in this part. It's my 18th consecutive year of lecturing and supplying the books. And it's not because of a relationship, it's because we're good at both. But we are purely an intermediary. There's publishers all over the world, literally. For the books we get here, it's mainly Europe and America. So lots of publishers, there's the courses, and GIBS needs books for courses. Now the likes of Fiona and that, she has no interest, she doesn't want to own these books. She gets books because you need books. Really? So if they do it themselves, and you know, some of the people here and people we've had previously, they've tried to do it themselves in other institutions. They don't even try. Because you're dealing with several different suppliers, you've got to follow up, you're worried about price, and stuff gets delayed in customs and all sorts of others. So GIBS is very happy to place an order on us, and we make it happen. So for a book like this, I forget who it comes from, but even though it's a local publication, it's important. Because most books are published overseas. So they place an order and we get it in. And in 18 years, we've never missed a deadline because it's our fault. In fact, I made a promise to GIBS, and it's back on record, that if we ever missed a deadline due to our fault, we would deliver all the books individually to your addresses at our cost. That's when you have faith in your service. So they're happy with us because they don't have to worry. They order a book and they know it'll be here, unless there's a hiccup. And if there's a problem, we keep them informed. Now on the other side, you've got the publishers. Why the hell do the publishers want Farmer Books? That's my company. I'm not marketing to you because you're not my market. No, you think books are expensive. No. GIBS buys 400 of some books. They're expensive, but it's a necessity. You know. So another thing, you need to know your market. So individuals are not my market. It's people with big orders and big checkbooks. Come on. There was a guy years ago, a comedian used to say his son's a doctor and he specialises. He's a specialist in the diseases of the rich. It's clever. So what happens from the publicist side is they can deal with all the universities, but they'd rather not. Because this way, when you've got a few people like us, they build relationships. But from their point of view, the accounting is easier because they're very simplistic publishers. They treat the University of Pretoria as one account. So if the Department of Toenail Cutting doesn't pay the bill, they'll put the whole of UP on hold. You know what it's like sometimes. It sounds ridiculous, but it happens. You know? So this way they don't have to worry because it's our job to get the money. We pay the publisher. And that's the way it works. So we're an intermediary, but the publishers want us in there because we add value, because we take all the knocks and make things happen and liaise with the university and that, and tell them about new editions. We check all the editions so the lecturers know before the new edition comes out, there's a new edition. Because the bloody publishers deliver the new edition, and our notes are all in the old edition. And all they do is change a few pages to charge you more money. You know how it goes. So, the publishers want us and GIBS want us. As long as we're adding value like that, we have a future. However, if we're only seen as a cost, I just got that big on that camera. If we're only seen as a cost, stand back here, just about get me in. If we're only seen as a cost and not a value add, they will try their best to disintermediate it. And there's one phrase that everybody's looking at throughout industries, is disintermediation. It's happened in insurance, that brokers are very largely out of the loop in many cases, not every case, it's online. Banking, 95% or something of standard banks' transactions are electronic now. They've disintermediated a lot of the face-to-face contact. So disintermediation is where people are looking. And it can be in the middle somewhere, you know. So even like with Stair Kinnico, I buy my tickets online. I don't need to go in there and stand in the queue, and I have to queue for bloody popcorn and stuff, because you bastards haven't fixed that yet.
Working on it.
About bloody time. I've got electronic tickets, swipe my card, then I spend a year getting popcorn. So, that was a personal bit. Don't let me start on the back. Yeah.
Disintermediation purely about cost saving.
No, not always. It might be to take ownership of the customer. Another big issue, I'm going to get lost in marketing and things now, but a big issue these days is who owns the customer. And again, I'll go back to insurance. If you're dealing with a broker, I've had a broker for years, if they decide to move from MMI to Zurich, I'll go with the broker, because I trust the broker, and if he thinks Zurich's better for me, it's not better for him, but that's mine. If it's better for me than MMI, then I go with the broker. The banks have that with private bankers. If I've got a great, because one of the things the banks sell, you've all got the same products and stuff, but personal relationships are huge, especially with private bankers. I've got a private teller, that's another conversation. Gets transactions right, other than that, no value add. But if I did have a good relationship with a private banker and they moved to Nedbank, and they too, you know, a lot of you know, people move around all the time. You know? In fact, if you're in those sort of industries, if you sit still long enough, you'll meet everybody in the industry because they move around. So that's the problem. Who owns the customer? And what a lot of companies now, no MMI are trying to do, and you've got your multiply and various things to use it, is try and get ownership of the customer. So that can be a reason for disintermediation. Cost is one of them. But if it's a value add, you wouldn't get rid of them. So some insurance companies, because of the model they use, the broker is a huge value add. They don't want to get rid of the broker. But if you want to be a low-cost provider, then you might get the broker. Yep, yep.
Could the reverse also take place, that customers or that the service provider actually want an intermediate?
It could be. Could be. I can't think of an example off the top of my head before you ask me, but that could be. Well, no, it could be. Most of us are going the opposite way, and mainly because of e-commerce. We'll do an example now, which Ken did, of the travel industry. The travel industry, most of us book our holidays online now, with some exceptions, which I'll go through. Anyway, and the last one here, so you're happy with that? That disintermediation, if you understand supply chain, you know that is a huge focus at the moment. That if you're not looking at that, you're not really managing your supply chain. It doesn't mean you get rid of everybody. You better make sure those intermediaries give you a value add. If they're not giving you a value add, then they shouldn't belong there. We're not about carrying cost, we're about carrying value add. Yep.
So if you then do your sort of your calculation on the tier 1 and tier 2 in your operations, it's your provider here in your that's operation, and you go tier 1.
No, the tier 1 things are here. This is somebody who might deal with the tier 1 and tier 2 on your behalf.
Yeah.
And there are, in logistics, you've got firms who handle all that for you. And some of that comes into here now, because what happens is, companies realise, let's say your Cadbury's, who else? Beacon, give me another company. Nestle. You don't sell stuff on how it's delivered. It's the brand and price and quality and reputation. So how you get into a supermarket shelf is not a competitive strategic advantage. So you'll find when the trucks pull up to Macro or Game or Checkers or whatever, all those chocolates are on the same van. Now sometimes they use a specialist transit. Look, you don't want somebody who drives through the Karoo in a non-insulated van with all your chocolates. You know, you come up with one bloody big lump. So you need people who understand sweets. So they're all delivered by one van because there is no competitive advantage from having your own deliveries. They used to all do their own deliveries, but what happened was supermarkets now give you delivery spots. You've got Wednesday afternoon between 2 and 4. And if you missed that, you've missed your delivery. And if there's a hole on the shelf, they'll put something else there. And that's how ruthless it is. I mean, Pick and Pay say, we don't sell air. If there's a hole on the shelf, we'll fill it. You may not get it back, but we'll let you buy it back. You know. So it's about getting stuff there. So there's no competitive advantage from using different suppliers. So I mean, I'm sure all the chocolate companies buy their sugar from the same companies. And what else they have? They might get the cocoa from different places, I don't know. But a lot of their benefit is more in the way they process it than in the actual raw material. Then they will go into a service provider, which might be a delivery company. And I don't know, is anybody here from Smollen? Usually at least one in each class. There's a company called Smollen who does the packing the shelves and tracking stock. So they're another one in here. So Beacon, Cadbury's, Nestle, whoever, they use the same delivery trucks. They have the same people putting on the shelf, because how it's put on the shelf doesn't matter, as long as it's displayed according to the plan from marketing. So it does the job. So they can cooperate, and then we go in there and we see the different ones. If you like me, you might buy some chocolate from each one for other people to eat. So you with me? There was a hand up, sorry, I didn't come back to you.
So, sorry, in your example, like now with Smollen and Beacon and Essenders, would that be, because on Saturday we touched on 4PL and 3PL.
Right.
Would that be a 4PL in that process?
No. Well, would it? No. 4PL is when you control all of that for the client. So 3PL, see these guys, see this, I'm using different service providers here. 3PL and 4PL would do the whole lot. And Smollen doesn't do that. Smollen doesn't do deliveries or collections. They only do merchandise, for example. Are you with me on that? Okay. I'm not planning to go into 3PL and 4PL tonight.
I suppose that's a hint.
No! No. Lint. 85%, I'm diabetic. Don't try and kill me. I'll speak to Ken and Mark. So, are you comfortable with this? But crucial things, the cooperation in this. Even on the buying side, a few years ago, I was fascinated. Some of the mines got together and they bought Caterpillar trucks together. These trucks are like, you know, I don't know, a few million rand each or more, you know, probably 20, 100 million rand each. But in Rustenburg, there's 4 or 5 mines, they used to place their own orders. And now they've aggregated the orders and get a discount. Because there's no competitive advantage on how much you pay for a truck. It's how you use it. I mean, the real trick with there is utilising the truck, is not having it, you know. And just as a quick example there, I was over in, is it Waneng, the Janeng mine in Botswana, a couple of years back. Zwaneng. There was a real shortage of rubber after the tsunami. And you couldn't buy those big truck tires, 500,000 rand each. You couldn't buy them to save your life, you know, because because there's no rubber because the tree's been washed away. They bought trucks and put them on axle stands and took the wheels off. So you can't tell me people are price sensitive. They are, but not when it's bloody important, you know. So if the only way you can get tyres is to buy a bloody truck, you buy a bloody truck. And that's what this is all about. It's the appropriate thing at the appropriate time. And we've all done that. You know, I bought a pile of butter the other day. I'm a bit of a banting guy, you know. So they said there was a shortage of butter. Not in my house. Not in my house. Did I buy the cheapest? No. Because I want to have it. So, and by the time I shop around for butter, I've spent more time in petrol than I've saved by buying the butter. Now, you're laughing, but that's the same sort of thing for a company. It's not a million miles different. The whole of operations you do every day. You know, most of you don't look like you missed a meal recently. You know, I've got to be careful with a loop now. So you've managed, you know, buying stock, replenishing stock, preparing food, you know. No bad smells in the room, so you've probably showered or bathed recently, but you didn't jump in, you tested the water first, you know, in-process quality control. Operations, you do all the time. And supply chain management, you do. More now than you've ever done, because online you can check prices and all sorts of things. In the past you went in, whoever had a special offer, you bought it. So you're doing supply chain management all the time. But one of the things you're also doing is disintermediation. You've never called it that, but if you're buying from Amazon and Want It All and all those people, you're not going to the suppliers anymore. They're buying in bulk, getting a discount, you're getting a discount, they're getting profit, and we're all happy as a pig next excretion. That's disintermediation. So I just wanted to show you this. I think, did Ken show you this picture? I mean, it's pretty complicated. One of the big questions, one of the big questions in supply chain management is how much of the supply chain do you want to manage? Now, companies in the past, Ford is the classic one, they tried to manage everything. But they got in trouble because you need different techniques to run a car manufacturing plant than you do from an iron ore mine or a shipping line or a blast furnaces. You know. Ford used to boast that they turned iron ore into cars inside like 24, 48 hours. Unbelievable, you know. But they had great difficulty managing all that. Now, this is the pet food. You buy it here and take it home, but it goes right down to here. But that's not the end of the supply chain. That kangaroo had to be shot and dismembered.
Oh, wow.
And moved. Oh, sorry. I saw a great thing on Facebook today. To all vegans, why do you drink water? You are taking away some fish's home. So the cow had to be fertilized, or its parents did. It needs inoculations, it needs food, it needs transport. That rolling mill makes cans, but it needs power, it needs metal, it needs lubricants, it needs people. The farm, that needs tractors and diesel and seeds and fertilizer. So what I'm trying to show you is these can be bloody complicated. One of the strategic decisions is how much of it do you cover. Take SA Brunies, RIP. They were quite involved, you know, so all the hops, all the hop farms in South Africa, they owned, more or less all of them, because the hops are a crucial ingredient of beer. You don't take a bloody chance with them. So they owned hops. And there's other firms out there, like British American Tobacco. They go right down to seeds. So in Uganda, they've got something like 5 or 50,000 small farmers growing tobacco. BAT supplies the seeds, the fertilizer, sprays, and all sorts. The farmer grows it, they gather it, and BAT takes it in. So BAT is going right down to the seed. Mondi and Sappi go right down to the seeds because they've got to get replacement trees. So all of this is part of how much of the supply chain you want to manage.
Sorry, Sean.
Yes.
On that specific one, we were talking about tiers. If you're going to cover it later, you can stop me. But we're talking about supply tiers and customer tiers, and then the service provider in the middle. Now, my view is that the farm could be the service provider and the cereal supplier,
No.
and the pet shop maker could be the customer 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, it depends how you define it. You see, for the pet food factory, you know, they're the warehouse, and probably up to there are their tiers of customers. They wouldn't go all the way through to here. And these are the suppliers. But if you're the meat supplier, it's just this bottom bit. You know, it's just the meat and the pet food factory. So it's a pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but
But there's a tier below that, which is veterinary services.
But as you said, that the farm, there's tractors and seeds and those type of things, that is suppliers to the farm.
You know, except that, but that cereal supplier wouldn't be too interested. You see, except if the cereal supplier forecast they're going to, let's say the whole thing starts at the top. Well, maybe, I'm sure we'll be doing that. Marketing